Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Clifford Stone. I was a Sergeant First Class, United States Army. I had a secret clearance with nuclear assurity. I could get the clearance that I needed to do whatever it was that was necessary for me to do at the time on special operations when I was called in on those.
You sure about that, Cliff? Because I think I've seen you somewhere else. In fact, I know I have. September 11th.
It's in both those towers and floors that got hit. I can't get through.
Now watch as this actor can't even remember his lines and has to refer to a cheat sheet that he has.
I was there only 6 months ago. My office is now in Midtown.
What company?
Marsh McLennan, Marsh Inc., Mercer Consulting Group, and William M. Mercer, Putnam and Guy Carpenter occupy all floors in that range there that looks like that got hit.
Everyone knows about the Harley guy, so I'll just play the clip and I won't go into it that much.
Rick Leventhal was in downtown Manhattan when the buildings came down and has an update for us from Lower Manhattan. Rick?
Well, John, we're on Church Street at Reed Street, for those of you familiar with Lower Manhattan, just a few blocks away from World Trade. Still thick black smoke billowing from the scene where both towers collapsed. Again, just a few blocks away from us. We were standing out here on Church Street when both towers came tumbling down, and each time there was a huge cloud of smoke and debris that came roaring down this street, and everyone literally ran for their lives. At this point, the police have been efforting to establish a perimeter. They're trying to keep people back and make sure that no one interferes with their job, which is to try and secure the area and then get inside that World Trade Center rubble to see whether or not they can locate any survivors who may have been inside the building or just outside the building when it came tumbling down. We want to bring in Mark Walsh, who's a freelancer for Fox. You live just a few blocks away and witnessed.
Dude, I live on the 43rd floor of a building which is 5 blocks from the World Trade Center itself. I witnessed the entire thing from beginning to end. People
talk about how it looked like a movie. I know when I came walking down here early this morning and saw both towers on fire and people on every street corner, it was like a movie, but you watched the planes hit the towers.
I was watching with my roommate. It was approximately several minutes after the first plane had hit. I saw this plane come out of nowhere and just scream right into the side of the Twin Tower, exploding through the other side. And then I witnessed both towers collapse, one first and then the second, mostly due to structural failure because the fire was just too intense.
Obviously, there were a lot of people inside the buildings at the time.
2 guys from the 7th precinct, the 1st precinct, the fire department right here, the 7th truck, those guys are all right there at ground zero when those things went down. And God bless, I know there's a lot of guys there that were around there, and hopefully they made it out.
Did you notice how he said the word out? Out. Like Canadian accent. And remember, a lot of these individuals are from Canada. Ian Greenberg owns the largest network in Canada. We're seeing the connection between Canada again and again and again with agents and actors and provocateurs. Now, you'll notice Rick Leventhal, again, this is the same scene as before in the beginning of this film where we showed you the other individual that he asked what role was he playing. And now again they're talking about movies and they're talking about sets. Clue in to what they're talking about.
What was happening around you in the streets around you as this was all going down?
Absolute pandemonium. From my viewpoint up 43 floors, I could see people running like ants, just absolutely scurrying for their lives. Billows of smoke coming through the streets, just walking down the street, just pushing everybody back. And then several minutes after, it looked like it had just snowed over the entire area.
Yeah, the debris, the soot was thick on the street. There's still a dusting of it out here. But when I was standing here and the towers collapsed, we saw police officers running for their lives, screaming, "Get back, get back, get back!" And I'll tell you, that's a wake-up call when you see cops running for their lives, and people too, women's pushing baby carriages, that sort of thing.
Well, you had the first tower first. That one, when that first went down, it just pushed everybody back, and it was a good 15 minutes before the second tower finally collapsed. Yeah. And it was just overwhelming, and by that point, it was just insane.
Well, I'm hearing a lot of similar stories from people who were inside the building. One gentleman we spoke to earlier today, John, was on the 77th floor and said it was a relatively orderly evacuation at that point after the first plane hit the first tower. Everyone going down the stairs, not a lot of panic. But when they got to the 6th floor, he says they felt a second shake. And then people started to really be concerned. Obviously, there were people in the building at the time of this, and some of those people they haven't recovered them yet, and that's a big issue right now, is trying to get the rescue workers and the emergency crews to the building. There were police officers there and emergency crews there when this was all happening, and they were right at ground zero when it all went down. So can we talk to you? What's your role out here right now?
I'm just standing by right now. Can't say what role I'm playing right now.
Well, there's a lot of standing by. There's also concern that some of these other buildings might actually come down. This building right here with the glass that you see, the nearest tall building, that has structural damage as well. We saw a lot of glass broken out, and a corner of the building appeared to be in distress, and there's concern that there might actually be another collapse of that building. And I can also tell you that when we first got here, we were a few blocks up. We could actually see debris from one of the planes on the street, a huge gear at one point, looked like a piece of an engine at another point. So that debris is still littering that area up there. They had roped it off with police tape, and they had FBI agents out there, and that was just before the first tower came tumbling down.
And yet Rick fails to get a shot of that important material. Now, I'm not saying the whole thing, the entire collapse and everything was fake. I'm saying that they intermixed a lot of footage with stuff that was done on a set, and we can see that there's actors here being used just by the way that they're talking, the scripted out language, and the lack of knowledge of what's going on, because they're standing by, just like he says. So in order for that to take place, there has to be a beforehand knowledge of that this was going to happen. So keep that also in mind.
And everyone went running away. So there's evidence out here. There's a lot of work left to be done. And as you can imagine, the streets are a bit chaotic at this point. But I just want to show you one drastic difference looking north as opposed to looking south. Blue skies, clear streets, not a lot going on over there. But then come back around this way, Dan, and you'll see just smoke billowing from the scene. Still, obviously, a major disaster waiting to be cleaned up. Back to you, John.
All right, Rick Leventhal in Lower Manhattan, thank you very much. A dark day in America, September 11th, 2001.
But we have one more person that you might recognize from other events that was at 9/11 that day.
No, guys, if that's happening, we got to get the hell out of here. This is not good. Sorry about that.
Remember the last video we just talked about from 9/11 with this guy? Well, here he is again. This is Richard Cohen. Richard Cohen is the president of the Southern Poverty Law Center. You might ask, why does his earlobes look different? Well, this is because he's had a simple 30-minute procedure that's done in a doctor's office, which is done under a local anesthetic, where they cut a small piece of the earlobe out, a wedge shaped, and then they stitch it up with 2 stitches. It's a earlobe reconstruction that a lot of people do when their earlobes sag as they get older. It will make you look younger, which he's done right here. The important part to look at is still the inside of the ear, the landmarks that don't change. The earlobe doesn't have any cartilage in it, so it's a very simple procedure to do. You're in and out, and there's no pain whatsoever. So that's why his ears don't look the same on the outside, but on the inside they look exactly identical. Plus, look at his nose and look at the rest of his face. The landmarks of the face match exactly. He's wearing a hat that looks like it has one of the fake wigs in it that has the blonde hair, or he could have dyed his hair, who knows, but that's a question that maybe we should ask him. Now, Gary Johnson was also down at Occupied Wall Street. He played a role of a police officer down there. Here he is.
With the interest, I don't. It's kind of fun to see.
Well, you know, if
but
you
I
think
don't
about
understand exactly what's going on. What they want, it's anarchy. So I don't know. That's what we do. Wall Street is an interesting concept. Wall Street is Main Street in America. Wall Street is kind of the spear point for capitalism. We finance things. That's all we do. We take a guy who has a good idea in a garage and wants to turn it into something.
And I'm sure you remember this punk from 9/11, also from the G20, and of course Occupied.
Nobody helped create jobs. If you don't get jobs, then you really...
Take notice to his earlobes. Has a prosthetic attachment. It's a foam rubber latex attachment that attaches to the bottom of the ear. They make them for the top of the ear or the bottom of the ear. It's very difficult to change the inside of the ear. But as before, we could see that he had the operation done to his lobe to change it before. Now he's doing this again to try to disguise who he is.
Really unemployed, so...
Where's Wall Street been for the last 10 years?
Well, you can't look where Wall Street's been for the last 10 years. You got to look where Wall Street's been for the last 200 years. And there's 300 million people in this country, and as of 4 years ago, the unemployment rate was 4.5%.
How can you it's always...
Hold on. It's not your show, monkey. I'm talking to these people. Hold on. I'm not talking to you. Monkey, I'm not talking to you.